one's coming to save you. So what are you gonna do about it? Raw Minds on men's mental health. Hosted by Erick. For the ones we never meet.
Welcome back, everybody, to Raw Minds. And I'm your host, Erick. And a lot of young men are angry, addicted, isolated, and quietly wondering whether their lives have any real purpose. People tell them to toughen up, work harder, stop complaining, be a man. But what happens when nobody teaches them what being a man actually means? Today's guest is Jesse, known what it feels like to search for direction while carrying loss, confusion, and addiction. He grew up moving from a military base to another. He lost his mother at a young age. He struggled to understand who he was and where he belonged. Then as a teenager, he entered the world built around discipline, hardship, brotherhood, responsibilities, and service. Jesse joined the International Alert Academy, basic training, Unit 40 in 2008. He went from student to drill instructor to squad leader and commanding officer. Today, he leads the same academy that helped him redirect his own life. He became the first alumnus to serve as a commanding officer and is the first graduate to reach the rank of Colonel. He'll help me with that, but yeah. But this conversation is not about titles and uniforms. It's about the boy behind them. We are talking about grief, addiction, masculinity, emotional isolation, faith, membership, and why so many young men are growing up without direction. We are also asking the harder questions. Does discipline truly heal a man, or does it sometimes teach him how to hide his pain more effectively? This is Jesse, and this is Raw Minds. Thank you, Jesse, for joining Raw Minds. I really appreciate having you here. Can you, I messed up on a word there. Sorry. Yeah, please.
No, you're fine, Erick. No, I appreciate you making the time and have me on here. So, so I'm the first alumnus of the program to reach the rank of colonel inside the organizational structure there. So
perfect. Yeah.
Been with the organization. It'll be 18 years this fall.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. That's amazing. What achievement. And we'll get into your story, but for where you started and then now where you are, man, it's amazing. And you're helping these kids. And yeah, so I'm proud of you, man. I really am. I just want to say thank you for that, for helping out.
Absolutely.
Are the people that's going to be taking care of us when we're old, right? So,
that's right. That's exactly right. You want to train them good because...
Yeah, definitely, right? I do before I start, I like to get my guests to plug all where they can reach you and all your social media. So if you could just do that before, and I'll put what I have up on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are looking for us online, it's the alertacademy.com. It's kind of our website. And then obviously we're on all the socials, right? So our YouTube platform, alertacademy.com. We're on Facebook, alertacademy.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok. So all the major platforms you're going to find us on there as we put out content. A lot of it's training based, right? And so you're kind of seeing life at the academy, or it's small snippets of student bios or things we do or deployments we go on or people we're helping. And so it's both kind of real-time updates about what we're doing, where we're going, and then just normal life at the academy updates on all of those platforms.
That's wild. So yeah, so people can keep up to date with you guys on your new adventures or whatever you guys are doing at the time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get more into that, definitely. But before we do get into that, I would like to say, before we discuss Alert Academy, who was Jesse before the discipline, the uniform, and the leadership title?
No. It's obviously been a journey, and I don't think anybody arrives, right? And so even at this point, I'm not done with this journey of transformation, right? Of working on the things that hold me back or the problems I have. But growing up in a military family, so I was one of 6 kids, which is in some ways really cool. In other ways, there's a lot of us, right? And so that can lead to moments of maybe feeling forgotten or feeling left behind. And so growing up in a military family, really cool in some cases because we moved, I moved 18 times before I was 18.
That's crazy.
And so all over the country, California, Hawaii, Connecticut. And so some people grow up in the same house their whole lives, right? And that was just unheard of for me. And so again, in some ways it's kind of cool, a lot of adventure. In other ways, that leaves you drifting a little bit where you don't really have a tight-knit community. It's hard to make friends. You're jumping from base to base to base, and within 6 months to 3 years, you're going to leave those friends, and now you got to go make new friends at a new school or a new church or whatever. And so there's kind of it's kind of trade-offs, and that's true with everything. But I think a lot of that led to before I came to Alert, it led to some pretty deep insecurities, right? And I'm not sitting here to blame my parents or blame the military or any of that, but I have and had pretty bad case of dyslexia, right? And so I was never good at school, never good at academics, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and didn't come easy to me. And so I think that led to some insecurities. I actually had a vision problem growing up where I had lazy eye, and I had to wear an eye patch, and I had to wear glasses for a while. And kids growing up can be pretty ruthless, right? So you add the dyslexia, and then you add the glasses. I was a pretty small kid, pretty scrawny kid, and short, skinny, right? And so you're kind of getting hit from all angles. And then you're in this family with 6 kids, which, and again, pros and cons. I'm dead smack in the middle.
I was going to ask you where.
I'm dead smack, right? So I got 2 older siblings and 3 younger siblings. And so sometimes you can kind of get lost in the mix a little bit. And, mom and dad are super busy. My dad, is deployed, right? He's on sea trials, right? He's off, he's a submarine commander, right? So he's in charge, leadership, doing all sorts of things. And so dad's not around, right? So mom's having to fill, both roles there.
Sorry to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
So as a submarine commander too, he's probably gone on like month's end. Was that too?
Yeah. So, fortunately, by the time I'm old enough to have real solid memories, a lot of the long sea trials were done, but several months at a time, right? So it was never like the 9 months, but it was a month here and a month there where he would be gone, deployed on sea trials and stuff. So that's the trade-off, right? You get the military base life experience, which is in some ways really cool. Other ways, well, your dad's gone a lot. Right. So, and then
sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted
yeah. And so in the middle of all that, so I'm growing up, right? I'm growing up in this environment, and in the middle of this, in 2001, my mom gets cancer. And so we were in Hawaii at the time. We moved back to the States. My dad started working for the Office of Naval Intelligence and in the Pentagon. Well, what happens in 2001, right? Well, 9/11 happens in 2001, right? So that changes a lot of things culturally for us as a military family. We're going to war. My dad's in the military. And then in the same calendar year, my mom gets a cancer diagnosis. And it's a long battle, right? And so for the next 15 years, she fights that battle with sickness until she finally passes away in 2015. And so you add all those things together of a dad who's, deployed and gone and not around, a mom who's sick from when I was about 11, right? She gets sick, and then the mission kind of becomes, keep mom alive, right? I've got younger siblings that are 4 years old, and you're going, oh my goodness, are we going to lose mom here? So for lack of a better term, right, that brings a lot of these, what I'll call micro traumatic moments in my life, and obviously I want to be careful with that word, but we can call it like lacks and whacks, things that whack us, big things like, the death of my mom would be kind of a big whack. But then there are little lacks, right? Like dad not being around a lot, moving 18 times by the time I was 18. And so that led to all sorts of insecurities in my life, right? All sorts of compensations for those insecurities, pride, ego. It also led to addiction. I was looking for outlets to kind of numb some of that pain, some of the insecurities that I was experiencing, some of the things I was being made fun of.
Medicate, right?
Yeah. So medicating. And, my form of medication really ended up being pornography for a long, long time. I got into it very young, very early, and it ate up, large sections of my life.
Yeah.
And it could have been anything, right? I was just looking for something to numb some of the uncertainty, some of the pain, some of the fear, some of the anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's really who I was before coming to Alert. And it's not to say that, the Academy fixed all those things. Some of the men that I have been able to meet while I'm here have helped me work through those things and talk through those things and not feel alone in those things. And so that's, one of the antidotes to addiction is relationship, I like to say. All right. Maybe not the only antidote, but it's one of the antidotes is deep deep relationships with people, which is one of the things that I was able to find here. Coming from a military family, that relationships were hard to build because you moved, right? You changed churches and you changed
It
schools.
gets like this high and then it stops pretty much, and you don't
right.
reach
Yeah,
that other
it's
level.
quick,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
connect real fast because you're a military brat and they're a military brat, and you know that, man, you could be gone in 6 months. Let's connect really quick.
Yeah.
But then it's gone.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that, coming to Alert gave me, one of the byproducts of coming here, it's not even why I came, honestly. I came for the adventure. I came to be a firefighter and a paramedic and, do all those things, some of which I did. One of the byproducts of coming here was the deep friendships, right? Was the deep-seated, long-term friendships, walking through hardship, walking through the highs and the lows of life over a long period of time, creates a bond between men that is sorely lacking and sorely needed in the life of a young guy.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I do this, you know what I mean? To shine light on men, but women too. Don't get me wrong. This is a men's mental health podcast, but who would I be to push away anybody that needs help?
Right,
You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's men, and like it's so sad, the stereotypes and stuff. Oh, you got to be strong, you got to be tough, But like we really are human beings. We're just like anybody else. We have feelings. We're allowed to feel, and it really like affects men at a young age. Like it definitely did for me, Like my dad was a boilermaker, so he was actually an underwater welder at the time when I was just a little child. Yeah.
There's a high-risk job.
Yeah, and there's only
grief.
so many of them in the world right at that time, like right. So he would be traveling all over the world and welding. So I knew what it was like. So I had almost abandonment issues there too. And then when him leaving gave me abandonment issues, and I'd feel really down and sad about myself, right, and depressed. And he would just tell me, suck it up, be a man, be a man, get over it, right? And that really destroys, upcoming men and men right now, like us right now, because, we're so stuck on being this man, being this person, this persona we got to keep. And it's tough being like that. And then we push our other feelings aside, and it struggles.
Yeah.
So something that you're
one
doing,
of the things that, you kind of brought it up. One of the things that, just in my 18 years working with young men here at the Academy, I like to say, the young men coming in now in some ways are very different than I was even as a young guy. Times change, seasons change, technologies change. These guys are up against things that I was never up against, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's addiction or whatever, right? There's just a different world.
Well,
the
this
narrative
world's
out
crazy
there.
now. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, brother. I know.
At the same time, young men are young men, right? And we all deal with the same stuff, the same junk. And one of the things that we see is what I'm going to call the dad deficit, right? And that's not my term, right? I read that somewhere, but some of the things that as a young man, you're kind of looking around saying, okay, what is it to be a man? And the first place you'll look is your dad, good or bad, right or wrong. Now, I was fortunate enough to have a really good dad. But he was gone, right? He was deployed. He wasn't around, maybe as much as I would have wanted. And he's also flawed, right? He's not a perfect guy. And so let alone the guys we see coming in that don't have dads, or they have abusive dads, or they have checked out dads. And so it's good to be a man. It's also hard to be a man, like you're saying, especially if you're told the narrative that you shouldn't feel or you don't have emotions, which, for many, many years was the narrative. And you kind of got to hold those things together, right? Kind of these two truths at the exact same time. And I think you can. I think you can hold those things together where, young men have the capacity to be strong, and we have the capacity to bear things well, and, broad shoulders, but that doesn't mean we're feelingless. That doesn't
100%.
mean things don't affect us and don't hurt us and don't wound us. And so, whether it's father wounds or other, and those things drive young men crazy, right? When you have undealt with wounds from growing up or your childhood or your father, especially authority figures, those things will drive you nuts, right? They will eat away at your soul in a way that almost nothing, and which is what drives young men to, in my experience, one of two extremes. Either I watch young guys go crazy on the aggressive side, right? And they kind of, the narrative you're talking about, right? Be strong, be tough. And they go way over here, right? And you could think of, maybe the Andrew Tates of the world or whatever, right? Kind of that mentality. And that's kind of the extreme example.
Red pill, blue pill kind of.
Yeah. So like either way over here where you're kind of like, okay, I'm not saying some of those things don't matter, but that can't be the whole picture.
Yeah.
And if that's the whole picture, that's unhealthy. So either they're hyper aggressive, right? And that's where abuse, they become the abusers, right? Or we watch young guys become passive, right?
Mhm.
And they become, way over here, and they're bumps on a log, and they're hopeless, and they're living in their mom's basement or whatever, right? And they have no direction and no passion and no drive because they've been belittled for so many years and put
Mhm.
down. They stop trying.
Yeah.
And I think we can hold those two things at the same time, where there are good things about your strength, and those things about being a man that are good, right? And we should be good at those things and work on those things, and bear the yoke in our youth, and but at the same time we can have real conversations, and
Mhm.
we're only as sick as our secrets,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes
Yeah.
why we're really sick, spiritually, mentally, physically, is because we think that being a man is living a life full of secrets. I can tell
Mhm.
nobody, and there's nothing. It's further from the truth, right? There's nothing
Yeah.
further from the truth. That man, no. You got to bring these things into the light. You got to be willing to find a group of men that you can have real, honest, raw conversations with. Otherwise, you'll stay sick, right?
Mm.
And that's why we like to say, one of the attributes of being a man, it's not that I can deadlift 300 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's not what it is to be a man. Again, maybe there's aspects of that where we should work out and we should do those things. Yeah, that's true.
Healthy.
Right?
It's
'Cause
being
you
healthy
want to
and
be
stuff. Yeah.
functional, and you don't want to be
Yeah.
a bump on a log. But the essence of being a man, part of it is learning how to live a life of self-control,
Mhm.
and living in the context of community, to where your job is to help lift other people up. But you can't do that if you're smothered. And so
Exactly.
getting yourself in a place where you allow other men to help you, so that you can go on and help other men, right? And kind of pass the favor along. We all need some form of mentorship, right? We all need some form of help. Every single one of us needs other people speaking truth into our lives. Otherwise, we believe all sorts of things that just aren't true about
Well,
ourselves, about reality. And that kind of crushes the soul of a young man.
Well, and it's so true, and I think it helps tremendously when someone also has walked that path,
Oh, yeah.
and has came out, and it shows the person, like, they've been through it, so you can do it. You know what I mean? Like you've
Yeah.
walked your path, and now you're helping so many
I'll,
others, right?
I'll tell you a story on that real quick
Yeah,
here,
please.
and
No,
we can
no,
keep
we got
going.
time. Please, yeah.
So when the day my mother passed away, one of the hardest days of my life, right? When she finally
Mhm.
passed away. And I was fortunate enough to have some of this community that I built here at Alert, right? And these guys drove through the night to be there. They showed up in incredible ways, and they stayed, right? They sat in my house for a week, right? Loving on me and listening to me and grieving with me, in an incredible way. Right, they showed up when I was at my worst. They showed up with their best.
Held space for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a phenomenal representation of part of the brotherhood and the community that this place can build in the life of guys, right? And yeah, we were there for each other's weddings, the good stuff, but we were also there in my case for this funeral, for this crippling
Mhm.
death, right? I was 24 years old. My mom passes away from a really ugly battle with cancer at the end there. But I'll tell you, back to your point there about like walking the path behind somebody else. There was one phone call I took that day, right? As people were calling and people were coming in to love on me. There was one phone call I took that day, and that was from a friend I had in high school. And she had lost her mom, I want to say 4 or 5 years before I did. And there was nothing like talking to somebody who'd been there, because
Mhm.
I didn't have words to describe it. I mean, I was just beyond grief, right? I was
Mhm.
broken because I'd had a pretty close relationship with my mom, right? As one does when your dad's
Yeah.
maybe not there all the time, you get close to your mom.
Yeah. But it
And
shows
so,
too how much you love your mom, is that you're
oh
grieving.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That shows, you know what I mean? The love.
And so to your point and to this day, right? I mean, I text her on the anniversary of her mom's death, and she texts me on the anniversary of my mom's death, right? And because you're part of a club that you never asked to be a part of, you never
Yeah.
wanted to be a part of, and there's no way to get out of it. And learning how to live, because you can't get rid of it, right? That reality is true, right? You can't just annul it. It happened and you can't undo it. And so learning how to live in the sea of grief, learning how to swim in it as the waves knock you over, because you're never getting out of it. You're never undoing it. Grief is a desert you have to walk across on foot, right?
Yeah.
You can't fly over it. You can't fly under it. Now you don't have to walk alone, and that's the key, but you have to walk it on foot. And so to your point, there was, out of everybody I talked to that day and was incredibly grateful for, she was the one person that really, really knew exactly what I was. And she spoke truth into my life in that moment. That was just, it was exactly what I needed.
And that's so true. Like, I want to say this too. Like, I had a similar moment like that too, because my fiance passed away 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And to be honest, it was hard because 5 years today, actually, my best friend passed away. And then a year after that, my dog passed away in my arms. And then a year after that, my fiance passed away at the time. Right. So it was hard going through all that.
Next,
yeah. But and in between that, I was losing friends. I mean, they weren't like close, but they were like, people I knew, and I was losing. It was horrible, man. That year that whole like stint of probably about 6 years was horrible for deaths, man. I'm telling you. Yeah, it was horrible. And so I had a friend that lost her fiance, right? And it was kind of funny because I hooked up them together. So he was a good buddy of mine. He actually yeah, man, he used to live underneath me. I used to live downtown when I was in my party days, and he used to live underneath me.
Sure.
And I remember one day we went to the liquor store, we're coming back, we're coming up the elevator, and the elevator stops on the 23rd floor. I live on the 24th. And like the elevator should never stop when it's going up, right?
Yeah,
like nobody's going up, right? It's going down. And they're all like you have to buzz to go to the floors, right? So these 3 guys get in, and then we go up to our next floor, and then the door opens, and then the 3 guys walk out, and I'm with a couple of my buddies, walk into the door, and he knocks on the door. I'm like, "Can I help you guys?" He's like, "Yeah, we're going to the party." I'm like, "Who are you guys?" I'm like, "You're not going to the party. I don't know you. This is my house." He's like, "Oh, I'm your neighbor from downstairs." I'm like, "Oh, then come on in." And we became best friends. I mean, like, it was and I actually introduced him to my godmother of my daughter, and they got married, and they had a beautiful, but he actually ended passing away with cancer.
Man.
And me and the godmother, we actually went to high school together too. And she was best friends with my kid's mom. I know it's a weird little
small
thing,
world. Yeah.
But she gave me some great advice too. You know what I mean? And
well, and it's not and you got to be careful, because we're not talking about a comparison game, right?
Yeah,
it's not like, well, I heard, well, you know what, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about like, oh, we're going to one up each other with horror stories, right? That's not the point. The point is to sit in the grief with each other and say, well, and in some ways say nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what is holding space. Like when Joey, he started this podcast with me, right? This is how it started, actually, is like the week that she died, he would come over after work, because I was on grievance or whatever it's called, where I had some time off work, right?
Yeah.
And he would come over after work every single day, and he would just sit with me, would not even say a word. He just sat with, and every single day. And some days I would say something, some days we wouldn't, and he would just get up and go after like a couple hours. And I just needed someone there to hold space, because no matter what this person can say to me, it's not going to fix anything,
right.
or
That's
not
exactly
make me
right.
Yeah, and it's not going to make me feel any better. And that's when I turned and said, I want to start a podcast to help other men, because, I'm getting these suicidal thoughts again. I attempted in 2015. I promised myself I wouldn't, and I want to help men. And doing this podcast has actually helped me grow. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
But that's what I was saying about my friend there, though, right? So she was through it, and like your friend was through it. So it's not even about like they know your feelings. They know what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And no two experiences are exactly the same, right?
No.
And so that's not what we're saying either.
Yeah.
But the capacity, I mean, well, and to your story there about wanting to take your own life, right? The depression and the anxiety will crush you.
Definitely.
If left to your own devices, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been, what I'm going to call depressed a handful of times in my life, and they were all experience based, as in something happened
Mhm.
And then I was depressed, right? As far as I've never experienced, clinical depression where there is no reason and you are depressed.
Mhm.
But those are scary moments because I
Yeah.
never felt that low before, not
Yeah.
wanting to get out of bed, right? Not wanting
Yeah.
to eat food. And
Even
so left to your,
showering.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything
See,
felt
I'm clinically
overwhelming.
depressed. Like
Okay, sure.
yeah. So I through because of I guess my childhood trauma and everything. So it fluctuates. Some years I don't even feel I feel great, and then
Yeah.
out of nowhere I'll just feel really heavy, and I just want to sleep all day.
Well,
You
and
know.
and in those circumstantial moments that I experienced, that level of depression, that gave me empathy for guys like you, right?
Mhm.
Where I went, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
is that what some of these people are feeling all the time? That's terrible.
Mhm.
Because mine were all circumstantial based, right? Mom passes away, right? Girlfriend breaks up, or whatever, right? And so I knew the cause of them. I didn't know the
Mhm.
answer to them. I didn't know the fix necessarily, and part of the fix was people, was relationships. But at least I could be like, well, this is why I'm depressed. And
Mhm.
so knowing that some people, clinically have this repetition where they on any given Tuesday they might feel that way. That's a
Mhm.
scary feeling, right?
Yeah, man.
And
It
the
is.
lies that you'll believe in spaces like that are pretty devastating, which is why you need other people, right?
Yep.
When you start going that spiral in that drain, for other people to speak truth into your life and say, no, 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 the world is a better place
Mhm.
with you than without you.
Well,
Uh,
I'm gonna also maybe you didn't think about this too. Is shame also comes along with that too, right?
oh yeah,
You know, so like I like this is for me my own example. I'd be like depressed and I'd be sleeping all day. It's really hard for me to get out. But then my daughter, I want to do something with her, and I'm telling you, it's really hard. It's like tons of like chains or something's heavy and it's just holding you down. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then I'd feel ashamed and feel bad because I'm not stepping out and helping her. You know, and I'm being there or
Well,
whatever.
it's
And it's just
this,
a
it's
vicious
kind of
cycle.
it's like a noose, right?
Yeah,
And the harder you pull to try to get it off, the tighter it gets, right? And so
100%.
I
Yeah.
experienced this, with a little bit in when I was, hyper addicted to pornography, right? You'd spend all day doing it and you'd feel really bad about yourself. Well, what's the one foolproof way to numb those bad feelings? Well, go back to
Yeah.
the thing, go back to the
Yeah.
drugs, go back to the alcohol, go back to the whatever it is, right? And so
Yeah.
it really is that vicious cycle where you feel bad about not being the person you need to be or want to be, and then well, how do I get out of this? Well, one
Mhm.
foolproof way is to just go back to sleep, right? Or just to
Mhm.
ignore it or to numb it. Which is why I think, as you were saying a second ago, this podcast has helped you. That's part of what's helped
Definitely.
me is
Yeah.
being in an organization like this where I can turn to people coming behind me and help them. So I'll tell you another story here.
Well, so this is actually I was trying to get a segue into that to
Yeah.
be yeah, because like
Yeah.
they like yeah, so please.
I'll tell you a story about a student here.
Okay.
So I had lost my mom, and about 6 months later, and I was just, starting to walk down this path, right, of grief and recovery. I ended up joining a grief share group, which I know is not for everybody, but for me, it was incredibly helpful to be
It's
in a
great
group with
actually.
other people that
Yeah.
had lost spouses or lost mothers or lost children or and so that was it was kind of a weekly thing I did for several months
Mhm.
right after the fact. And that was very helpful. But as I was walking through this path of grief, I was obviously working here at Alert, and we had a student here who was just about to graduate. He was just about to get out of training. And so his family was coming in for graduation, right? Was coming in for it. And they were in a horrific automobile accident. And his siblings were banged up, his dad was banged up, and his mom died in that
Oh.
automobile accident, right? He's like a day away from getting out of training. And he gets this phone, we get this phone call that his mom has died, right? On the
Oh,
way to come
man.
see him. He hasn't seen her in, 9 weeks or whatever. And now she's gone forever. And this is like 3 a.m, right, that this happens. And so they come, so who do they come get to take this young man to Louisiana? Because his family was driving to Louisiana to get here to Texas. They come knock on my door at 3 a.m, and they say, hey, you just walked through this 6 months ago. Can you take this young man to Louisiana? Because you can sit with him in his pain and talk with him in a way that nobody else here can. And so I did, right? And we put him in the truck and we drove, 6 hours or whatever to the hospital where his living family members were. And I was able to speak, in the same way that my friend from high school spoke into my life on that phone call. I was able to speak into his life. And then he ended up coming back for training for a couple of years. And we were literally walking like 6 months apart from each other, where, my mom died, his mom died. And then my dad started dating again and his dad started dating again. My dad got remarried and his dad got remarried. And I could literally turn around and talk him through what was coming and how it was working and what I was dealing with in a way that was really, and for me, it was a God thing. I look at that and say, man, God was working there to line those things up where I could minister to him, help him, encourage him, mentor him, love on him in a way that if I hadn't walked through that, as miserable as that was, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but there was a redeeming nature to it, right?
Exactly,
so in your point about like doing this podcast, part of what helped me get through my grief was helping somebody else through their grief. So something that helps you through your depression and grief is to do stuff like this, right? Because part of it is, because what does depression do? What does grief do? It makes us do this, right? Focus on ourselves, which for a time in a season we need to do.
Yeah.
But then at some point we got to pick our heads up and give it away, right? And help other people. And that's part of the antidote to some of those things, is to, okay, now how do I use this as a tool to help other people? So I think you're doing great work as you think about, man, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. That it in turn will actually not just help other men, it will help you to work through these things.
It really has. I mean, like the way I see things, the way, like not even, and I don't want to make this sound like the wrong way, but I really don't care what people think about me anymore too.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I had this conversation actually just the other day with another guest. It's like, I just really don't care what people think, because I'm in that stage of my life where it's just, I'm doing what I think is right. And yeah, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'll tell you what, something that grief does is that it clarifies what's important. Right? Nothing like grief and death and, those kind of really heavy topics to help push away all the noise and to say what actually matters, right? What's really important. And so some of what I think you're talking about, right, is not caring about the stuff that, who cares what rando so-and-so online says about what you're doing? You don't even know them. They don't even know you. Why would I care what they have to say about something they know nothing about? And so learning to, I think, the good things, if I can call them that, of these seasons of grief, or these pathways of difficult side seasons, they're very clarifying. They help clear away the muck and the distraction and the confusion to focus on what really matters, so that you don't care, right? You go, I don't care what's going on over there and over here, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Unless it's obviously then directed and it's matters something to me, obviously, then it would be different, something like that. So I do want to say, like, can you kind of walk us like the process of like someone joining your academy, kind of what it looks like for someone? Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. See, you can think of Alert as a little bit of a gap year program. We specifically work with young guys, right? In the same way that you're thinking, man, your expertise is men's mental health, nothing against women, but it's just not your circle of expertise. Same thing with us, right? Nothing against women. It's just not our circle of expertise. And so we specifically, because of the little bit of the crisis you were talking about at the beginning of this, mental health crisis in young men, depression in young men, addiction in young men. And so it's a gap year program for guys coming out of high school, right? So 17 years old. I know a lot of guys don't know what they want to do with their lives. So the Academy is a little over 30 years old. So we've been doing this since 1994. A guy by the name of Ron Furman started it, and he saw in the culture exactly what you and I are talking about, right? Young men that are directionless, young men that are hopeless, young men that are depressed, young men that don't know what they want to do with their lives. And a lot of voices speaking negatively to young men, right? There's this vacuum in the life of a young man that the culture's created. And there's a lot of toxic voices there, or negative voices that are saying,
especially nowadays.
Masculinity's wrong, or it's broken, or you shouldn't be a man, or we don't even know what a man is, right? All that. And so the Academy was started to help fill some of that void in the life of a young guy, right? And so it's a 9-month program. All our guys come through, and we all of us, right? So I came through in 2008, right? Went through the whole academy, graduated. All of us do phase 1 and phase 2. It's all the exact same training. And so phase 1, you can think of a little more of a, military style boot camp type training. In fact, the very first batch of instructors that started the academy, not Ron Furman, but the guys he got together, were all retired military guys, right?
Okay.
Retired Navy, retired Army, retired Air Force. And so that's kind of where the military flair comes from, is they said, man, there's some really good things the military can produce in a guy, this structure, right?
Yeah, the
Discipline and
structure,
brotherhood and camaraderie. And some of those things actually help get us out of some of the funks we're in, right? Some of the depression or the anxiety. They help clarify some of those things. So there's the, kind of the boot camp phase. That's 9 weeks that we put all of our student body through, right? And that helps just, give us all the same foundation in the discipline, in the structure, in the basic skills, right? So ALERT is an acronym for the Air Land Emergency Resource Team, ALERT Academy. So all the training is a little more geared towards response and rescue and emergency services, not all of it, but some of it. And so because we're actually a deployable resource. And so,
cool.
one of the things we were talking about is kind of get, at some point you got to pick your head up and, give your advice away, give your strength away, give your skills away. Well, that's part of our goal here, is that helping young men realize that, man, part of the goal of life is to give what you have and take what you have and give it away, right? Boys take, we say men give, right? And so how do we sacrifice?
I like
whether
that.
It's How do we sacrifice for our our daughters, right? I've got a daughter, you've got a daughter, right? How do we men give, right? We're here to sacrifice our lives, and so that's where you get. So first phase is where you get your basic land navigation and ropes and knots and search and rescue and medical training. Then we all go through second phase. Man, we all get cross-trained in chainsaw technician training. We go on deployment for a couple of weeks. So disaster relief in some way, shape, or form. So search and rescue, underwater search and recovery. We become search and rescue divers, high-angle rescue technician training. We all do that. Basic firefighting training. We all do that. Collapse structure rescue, advanced emergency medical training. And so we all go through that training together. So that we're a deployable resource now, so we can deploy around the country.
Do you get certificates? Sorry, do you get certificates for all of this?
So all the training is nationally certified. So, and actually, we actually get a huge slew of Canadians down here.
Really?
Because our training is transferable to Canada, Mexico, and other parts. We are international, right? So we get a lot of Canadians, Mexicans. We'll get guys from England, guys from Singapore, guys from Malaysia, guys from, all sorts of places in South America.
International. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So,
well, hey, this podcast is 115 countries. So,
hey, that's
hopefully,
great. Yep.
You know what I mean?
100%,
Hopefully
100%.
someone comes over, man.
In fact, a couple of my staff members they're dual citizens, right? They're Canadians and Americans, right? So yeah, we love Canada, right? We got a lot of student body from Canada. All of our certifications are transferable up there to Canada. And so, yeah, so this is all certification based, right? So these are things you could take and go use in a given field. And then once you get out of second phase, then you pick your third phase. And that's where you kind of all break off and do your own pipeline of training. And that's where we have advanced diving school, right? To get your dive, master. We have an aviation school where you can get your commercial pilot's license all the way through commercial pilots, so it's everyone planes and stuff. You have our firefighting school, right? So get your firefighting training, your IFSAC SEALs. We have a tech rescue school, so you can get your advanced technical rescue certifications and high-end rescue and collapse structure rescue and trench rescue and confined space rescue. We have an emergency medical basic course, so you get your EMTB certification, right? National certification, any state in the U.S. and Canada, Mexico, right? These are all—
Is that level 3? Like when you do your
That's all third phase. Yeah, these are all third phases, right?
No, I mean for your medical, because I know there's 1, 2, and 3, I believe. I don't know if it's
so this would be your— so there's like basic, intermediate, and advanced, and this is your basic.
Basic, okay.
And then I think there's obviously there's a fourth one which is paramedic. So this would be your basic, your level 1 basic.
Okay.
We have a construction program, right? So if guys are more interested in not the emergency services, but in the trades, so they want to get into welding or get into carpentry or get into flipping houses and drywall. So we have a construction phase. We have an overseas missions phase, right? So we are a faith-based academy, right? And we're not ashamed of that. So we are a Christian, non-denominational, but we are Christian. And so we have a phase for guys that are thinking about becoming missionaries one day, and they want to think about
awesome, man.
Doing overseas missions.
Yeah.
And we have a leadership phase. So if guys want to go more into like business or leadership, or they can actually go back into basic training. That's kind of what I did. I became a squad leader and a drone instructor in the pipeline in the program to help the younger guys coming in, be a team leader over there. We also have a summer camp, and it's called the Quest program. It's inside the umbrella of ALERT, right? That's for young guys, 14 to 17-year-olds. that want to come in and kind of, try out the academy and get some experience and some life skills. It's 3 weeks every summer. We do inside the bigger organization, which is the Alert organization.
That's kind of like a test for when they graduate and they have that gap. Or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they're 14-year-olds, right? And it's not rigorous like the Alert Academy is, right? But we're trying to help these guys even at 14 do some of that growing up, doing some of that maturity, do some of that helping them. Again, 14-year-olds, right? And you and I are, even at 14, we were struggling. We were, issues start early. And so helping young guys find their identity and find their motivation and find their direction, even so you have a summer camp that's 3 weeks long, 14 to 17-year-olds. And then the year-long program is Alert. That's that 17 through, whatever. So,
sorry, you made me just feel that's 32 years ago was 14 for me. I don't look it, but it makes me,
I know. Well, I sit there and I go like, I've been here for 18 years. Like, oh my goodness. So just to give you perspective, the students coming through now, right? So this fall unit that starts, we do 2 units a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. The guys coming in this fall were born after I came through the academy.
Wow.
Right? They're born in 2009, right?
Yeah.
And I came through in 2008. And you're like, oh my goodness, I feel old.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think it's great though what you guys are doing for the community, like for the kids and stuff like that. I think it's just I don't know. I think it's more needed definitely for the kids coming up. Like we talked before, it's hard, especially this world now. It's hard to navigate. When I scroll on, when I get into my doom scrolling while I'm sitting on the toilet, you know what I mean? All I'm seeing is, just like demon stuff. You know what I mean? And
they're no longer hiding anymore, right? They're out in the open. Yeah.
So, I just want to say on behalf of all the kids out there, I could have used something like this. Like, I just want to say thank you. Like for me, I went the gang route. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I went because that's what I thought was the brotherhood, because my dad left. He was the Boilermaker. Then he became a longshoreman. Became a really nasty drunk, right? Did some stuff and he left. So I didn't have that companionship, that love, that what a young man's looking for, that.
Well, and what's crazy is that, you got into the gang route. Well, that's because we're all kind of looking for a gang, right? And I use that term loosely, but all of us, especially as men, right? We need that other, male connection. And so it makes sense, right? Because we're all looking for that. And some guys find it in the military, some guys find it in the fire service, some guys find it in gangs, some guys find it. And, fortunately for me, I was able to find it here at and again, it wasn't even why I came. I came for the firefighting and the adventure and the deployments and the disaster relief, and all of which I got. But what I walked away with was a perspective on life change, right? And helping me, ground my identity and get through some of my insecurities. I found deep friendships that have lasted me for 18 years, and not just one, but multiples of them. And then I did have crazy life altering experiences, right? I've deployed all over the country. I've deployed all over the world. One of the things we say is that responsibility breeds maturity. And so it also helped me grow up, right? In a way that was in a safe environment, but a quick environment to help. So as I got more responsibility, that helped me mature as a man and get out of some of the funks that I was in. Inside this culture of brotherhood, right? And so we're all looking for a gang, and I think young men need and I say this, kind of tongue in cheek, a gang. They need a gang of mentors, right? And that's really the heart of the ministry. Ron Furman's heart when he started it was to how do we mentor young men? How do we disciple young men? How do we help young men? And so we all need it, right? There are bad outlets where you can find it, and there are hopefully some good outlets out there. Alert is just one of them. And it was tremendously beneficial in my life.
Well, and like I said, like that's exactly it. It's like I was looking for something that I didn't have at home that, as a young man we crave, that
and we crave it because we need it. We're made for it. Yeah.
And the funny thing is too, is like I was standing, I remember this in my younger years, I was standing with a bunch of people and we came to the conclusion that we were just broken men looking for a home, I guess you could say. And there was a bunch of us and we were all
looking to belong, right? Every single one of us wants to sit at a table where we don't feel awkward. right?
And that's
where
it. Yeah.
we feel like we belong,
Yeah.
like we can
And
call it home.
and that's what we did, you know, in a sense. Yeah, we were doing bad things. Don't get me wrong, but
Right,
we
right.
yeah, but we belonged like
It was the
together in
wrong
that.
outlet, but it was the
Yeah,
right desire, right?
exactly.
Right
Yeah.
desire, maybe
Yeah.
the wrong outlet, but
And
yeah.
it was crazy because like every single one of us came from like a broken home, you know.
Yeah.
It was, and it
Oh,
really
yeah.
like after like years, you know, like looking back on this, it really made me think like, you know, so like either one person or someone only had like one parent in the family or something traumatic, but it was all a broken home, every single one of us, you know. And the math was there, is like we all just came together looking for something. And that's what you guys have, you know. And if like I had something like that, yeah, maybe. But to be honest, I'm no offense to you, but I'm glad I didn't, because I
Oh,
wouldn't be where
yeah.
I am today.
Well, right.
You know what
Yeah,
I
you
mean?
don't. Yeah, exactly. You know, we're all in our own paths and our own direction and our own. You know, and God, He's going to, you know, mold us and shape us and form us the way He wants to in the path that He has us on. But yeah, you know, if we all have these stories, right?
Yeah.
But they all come back to that, you know,
Full circle, man.
the meaning question, right? Why are
Yeah.
we here? What are we here for? Where's
Yeah.
my identity? Where's my value come from? Am I valuable? We're all dealing with the same questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are help answering that, you know.
Yeah.
You guys are, and I just want to, like, we're getting to the end here, so I just want to say again, thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate what you guys are doing for the kids and everything. I do, if I do want you to plug one more time where people
Mhm.
can reach out, and I'll put it up on the screen. And also, everybody, all the stuff will be in the bio, so you'll have some other links too that I could fit up on here. But yeah, check out the academy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, that's alertacademy.com is our website. You can obviously pick up the phone, give us a call if you want more details. We're on all the major social media platforms, Facebook, alertacademy.com, right? Instagram, Alert Academy, TikTok, we're on there too, YouTube, Alert Academy, our channel there. You can watch us there, follow us there. For either organizational updates or just student updates and student life, you can find more about us there. So we are here to help young men, to forge young men, and to hopefully make them into tools fit for the master's use. And better, healthier, fuller versions of themselves.
And you're a product of it right here, man. So there you go. You know what I mean?
It's one of the best things I ever did. One of the hardest things I ever did, but it was good. It was really good for me then. It's still good for me now. Obviously, I'm still here doing it because of the change that it made in my life, because of other men loving on me, right? You know, I'll just tell one fast story here. And
No, please, man. It's okay.
But I'll go back to the moment I'd been home for Christmas. My mom was really sick, and then I'd come back to the academy. I was an instructor at the time, teaching here, and my mentor, who was still here at the time, he worked here, and I'd worked with him here for many years, and he was mentoring me to take over his position one day. And he knew things weren't great at home, and I mean, the mom was getting sicker and sicker. And my dad calls me out of the blue, right? And this is in February, and I'd just been home a couple of weeks earlier, and I'd never heard my dad so broken, right? And I just asked him one question. I said, "Dad, do I need to come home?" And he broke down in tears, and he said, "Yeah, you need to come home," because he knew my mom was getting to the end. And I walked back into the classroom building where we were teaching, and he saw that something wasn't right, and so he pulls me into the hallway, and I just weep, right? And he just grabs me, right? Man to man, he holds me up and just hugs me in that moment. And so, as you're saying, the byproduct of what we do here, right? Yes, it's structured and discipline and responsibility and those things, mixed with that mentorship, discipleship, and loving on guys, helping them get through maybe some of the darkest times in their lives, as what happened in my life. And I'll never forget that moment. Right. It's in my brain that what it is to be a real man, right? Well, men of steel and men of velvet, right? Men that can do hard things and bear the burden, and men that can also embrace you in those times and hug you when you are broken and at your worst. And so I'm a product of that. And that's why I'm still here, to do the very same thing for these guys as they come through, regardless of their background, regardless of what they're coming through. We're here to love on them. We're here to help them. And we're here to help them to become better men.
Oh man, I can't even leave after that. That was a great ending to this podcast. It's so true, man. What you went through, what you're doing for these kids, like you said, like I said, and you said product, of your environment, what you've helped these kids. It's just amazing, man. I just want to say thank you again. Thank you to the Academy. Please thank all your team members and your staff from Raw Minds.
I will do that.
And let them know thank
it.
you. We appreciate that. So
I appreciate the time, Eric. This has been great.
Thank you. You too. And I just want to say on that note, thank you, everybody. This is the second episode that comes out this week. So enjoy these two because I took a 4-week break. So I wanted to pump out some extra ones for you guys. So thank you again. And we will see you next week with another episode. Take it easy. Bye.
Raw Minds. Men's Mental Health. Hosted by Erick. Follow, subscribe, like, share. For the ones we never meet, you're not alone.